I'd get like bullied for it. I remember like I wore in year 7, a lot of people were bullying me because I wasn't wearing Nike, I wasn't wearing Adidas. So that led me for a very long time up until I left secondary school to care about what other people thought of me, or to care about like linking to YouTube here, caring about the numbers. I cared about like, oh, if a video does badly, that means other people don't like it. It's not about how I feel about the video. I mean, you're full-time content, right?
Yes, I've been for 3 years this November.
Oh, jeez. And you're doing like fine with it, completely fine with it.
Oh gosh, no. And yes, I love storytelling. I love storytelling so much. Ever since I was young, I was always creating stories and, building worlds in my brain. And I said, I know it's not at all a reference to me, but I want y'all emojing to know I love y'all so much. This is great. And then the developer responded with, you and all others can never prove that it isn't a reference to you.
Alright lads, welcome back to InsideMC, the part of the podcast where I sit down with an amazing guest every single week. And this week, I am joined with someone who is amazing at building, an amazing artist, Snifferish.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I feel like there's no other way to respond to that.
I already asked you before the podcast anyways. It's just like, you said the exact same answer. I respect it. Consistency.
I mean, listen, I don't think I know how to respond to that question any differently at this point. So
I mean, you could be bad. You're not, which is a good thing.
I could be, theoretically.
That could be an answer.
I would also be sad, and I think that I don't want to be sad.
You don't, especially before InsideMC.
Listen. I believe that putting it out, like saying that you feel bad, I think it's important to discuss it at times. But I do also believe to some degree that like by saying it out loud, I'm also bringing it towards me more.
So you're a bit like my mom, where she's like, if you wake up in the morning, you go like, I'm gonna have a good day. And if you're putting it out there, if you wake up in the morning like, oh, I'm not in the mood, today's gonna be bad. Like if you put it out there, then it's gonna be a bad day. But if you wake up and you're like, it's gonna be a great day, then you're gonna have a great day.
Yeah, I'm partially like that. I mean, there's definitely like moments when like the optimism fails completely and I can't do anything about it, but I try at least to be like that.
I just always say you gotta stay positive. Always positive, no matter what you do. Okay, maybe not in every case, but in most cases, positive.
I think negativity can be really like healthy. So I definitely have certain moments, but sorry, did not mean to get so off track. Anyways, I'm a Minecrafter, not a philosopher.
I mean, you say off track. I mean, the podcast is how you make it. If you want to do a philosophy podcast, we'll do a philosophy podcast. I don't mind. I'm happy to do whatever you want. You're today's guest, right? It doesn't mean I'm obviously the base of the podcast is me in quotation marks interviewing you. Doesn't mean I'm always going to interview you. With most of the guests nowadays, we just go on big tangents about how we feel about certain things. It's just kind of giving you a voice to waffle about what you think.
That's completely fair. I just didn't know if you had any specific questions or anything that you felt like you wanted to address first.
Well, no, we'll get to that. It's fine. There's timestamps on the podcast now. So if people want to listen to specific things, you can either go to the philosophy section or the Minecraft building section. That's their choice, wherever they want to listen to. Before we do carry on talking more though, I do always like to give the intro for you to introduce yourself after a flying start. So who are you? What do you do? If you have a fun fact for us today.
Okay. Well, hi, I am Sniff or Cassie, and I am a Minecraft builder / YouTuber / X streamer. I don't know. That's a rough area. And I don't know what my fun fact about me would be, because like I just share everything, probably to a bad degree, but I would say I am a very big fan of nature. I feel like that's pretty obvious, but yeah.
Is it obvious?
I don't know. I feel like it is.
I think it is. I mean, most of your builds are in a very nature setting, and then obviously I saw on Twitter the other day. If it's a recent tweet, I can actually just fact check. Yeah, literally, there's a repost. You reposted it from September 30th, 2022 of the Technoblade on an oil canvas, and you even did that out. Did you do that outside, or was it like, did you do it inside and then took it outside?
I took it outside. I could not do that outside. I mean, I've done plein air painting before. It's just like not always ideal, because sometimes like the weather can affect your paints, or if you're really like heat intolerant like I am, it affects you, so I don't really paint outside that much.
Fair enough. There you go. See, we have an amazing, very talented. So I'm really bigging you up. This is what I do. I big up people on podcasts. You're very talented, Sniff. I'll say that much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I agree.
I agree. I'm pretty decent. I think I'm good.
Well, what do you want me to say? No, I completely disagree with you, and I'm the least talented, but like that's so I don't have time for that.
Well, no, I mean, that's the negativity thing, right? We gotta stay positive, see?
Exactly. No, and I think that confidence in your abilities is like a whole other like factor in that too. Like I definitely had a period of time where I used to like wallow about and be like, oh, I'm not a good artist, or I'm not a good this or whatever. It was just so counterproductive.
I think kind of when you said about the whole negativity thing earlier, how it can be healthy. I think that's kind of the same with like, the whole like doubting yourself. For instance, with the podcast, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am unless I was very positive about what I did and very confident in myself. I mean, like the way I'm reaching out to people and even like, you know, jumped at the opportunity to have you on because I was confident in my ability to be like, yeah, I can make a good podcast from this and we can have a good talk. But I think it's also right that sometimes like I might be sitting there and I might think, damn, like growth was slow today, or have I done this wrong, or this new video isn't popping as much as the other one, or this podcast isn't popping as much as I think it would. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just healthy enough to be like, you're not always gonna you're not always gonna big yourself up. You're not always gonna be 100% on top. You sometimes are gonna be in a case where you're struggling a little bit. I think that's completely fine, just as long as it's not all the time.
I think like learning how to deal with that is like the number one thing you need to learn to deal with as a creator. Like I feel like most of the reason why I've seen people quit content creation is because they kind of, in a way, it's hard because I don't want to make it sound like the blame is entirely on them, because I do think that this is very much so like a cultural thing where we put so much emphasis on numbers and performance. So it's like, I don't want to sit here and be like, well, these content creators, they like, you know, quit because they ruined it for themselves. I think it's like the culture around content creation kind of promotes this unhealthy mindset of like numbers, and it's not healthy to like, content creation is supposed to be art to a degree. So it's like the same thing. It's like you just can't assign numerical value to the things that you create. Otherwise, you are going to end up self-destructing.
I think a nice way that, or like a way I can kind of add to this, or I guess maybe help clear up your point for anyone who might still be confused is...
Yeah, sorry.
No, for me, you're fine. For me, I completely agree with you. You don't worry, you haven't said anything bad there. Just obviously some people who aren't content creators might not fully, not in a rude way, but grasp it, because the same way I wouldn't, when I was first getting into content creators, all I saw was numbers, right? So to think like, oh wait, it's not all about the numbers, that's how you grow. But there is a world outside of it. For instance, I got a comment on a video the other day. So I've been uploading kind of like more straight interview type beat videos on the podcast channel with multiple different people in the video. And I got a comment the other day, and I got another one today like, oh my god, this video is so good, how does it only have like 2k views, or how does it only have 5k views? And I remember responding like, thank you, like I appreciate that you think I should have more, but it's more than just the numbers. The reason is because like it's about passion. You're not always, I saw this like image, I don't really do the whole motivational image thing, sometimes I do but not all the time, and it's like slow growth is better than like awaiting perfection or something. And it's like, you're constantly making mistakes and constantly improving. You're not always going to get a video that gets 1 million views. For instance, a lot of people look at Mr. Beast and like, oh my god, like he's most subscribed YouTuber in the world right now. He wasn't 10 years ago, but and I'm sure he didn't look at the numbers. I'm sure he looked at the numbers sometimes and thought, damn, this isn't that good. But had he have let that affect him, or had he have demotivated him and he starts caring because he wasn't getting high numbers, he wouldn't be the most subscribed YouTuber in the world right now. He wouldn't be where he is.
I mean, it's more important than people think it is, and it's even hard because like I say this, but it's not like I'm even free from this type of behavior either. There's been plenty of times where I've gotten into like creative ruts because I assigned so much. I basically came into this mindset of, okay, so the value of my art is determined by how much views it gets, or how much this, like, and when I say art, I mean like, my TikToks or my YouTube videos or my actual art, And so I got to this mindset of like, okay, the amount of views it gets is actually how good it is. And then that immediately can just set yourself up for failure immediately, because we don't always have control over algorithms. We don't always have control over what's going around in the world at the moment. I mean, obviously during the pandemic, most streamers saw increased numbers, and then they saw that decrease. And some of it didn't even have to do with the fact that they weren't doing their best. It just had to do with the fact of circumstances in the world had changed. So it's like, you really have to find some way to still give it value to you and to other people without completely attaching it to the opinion of something you can't control.
There you go. I like that. See, that's good. I think it also plays well, it used to be me, it's not me anymore. I think it plays a lot of a factor into like how you've kind of had your upbringing. For instance, when I was younger and in secondary school, on like non-school in England, we had to donate like £1 to charity for non-school uniform day, where you got to wear your own clothes to school for like like, I'm not sure if you're American, Sniff. Are you American?
I am.
Did you get to wear your own clothes to school?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
so-
went to a very like liberal school.
So in England we have school uniform, at least like down
Yes.
south, and so obviously we got to wear our own like school own like clothes every now and then. A lot of people wouldn't, which probably was the better option. But I remember like in year 7 and year 8 I'd wear, and my mum like bought me this, I think it's called Nicholson. It's like a Nicholson tracksuit. They sold it in JD, so obviously we thought, oh my god, it's from JD, it's like crazy, which I don't think they have JD in America. It's like,
Nope.
It's a big kind of like, they sell big brands. Not really, actually. They kind of fallen off. Anyways, English viewers will know what I mean. Let's just say it's like, yeah, I can't actually think of a comparison here. I'm sorry. Anyways, so I'd get like bullied for it. I remember like I wore it in year 7. A lot of people were bullying me because I wasn't wearing Nike. I wasn't wearing Adidas. So that led me for a very long time up until I left secondary school to care about what other people thought of me, or to care about like, in Kings of YouTube here, caring about the numbers. I cared about like, oh, if a video does badly, that means other people don't like it. It's not about how I feel about the video. It's because it's not doing well for numbers, other people don't like it. But then when I left secondary school, I wear the majority of like whatever I wear now. Like today I was walking down the train, I got a few laughs. I was wearing a t-shirt that said I am Groot, and it had Groot on it. Great, loved the t-shirt. But one time a day I wouldn't wear that because I'd be concerned about what other people thought, and I think that links back into content creation, that a lot of times I wouldn't upload the videos I upload now because I'm like, oh, they might not do well for views. But I don't care. I like the videos, I want to upload it.
I will say it's definitely hard when you become a full-time content creator, because like then you have like, you know, you are attaching your existence to that very unreliable factor. And I feel like what a lot of people don't know about like content creation, because there's like I think it's really because, I mean, not to be that guy, like this is such basic information, but like the internet is fake. Like what you see people post on the internet, what you perceive of other people, is never going to 100% be the truth. And when it comes to like social media influencers and their income and how much they make and, you know, everything surrounding that, there's this really big idea that like the second that you're like a full-time social media influencer, you're like bloody rich. You're like you're like drowning in cash and you never have to worry about a thing ever again in your life. When the reality is like a lot of the social media influencers I know who are full-time are not Mr. Beast rich, and they do have a lot of their like, you know, ability to live and survive attached to their content. So that adds on a whole other factor of like how hard it is to not worry about what other people perceive about you, because now all of a sudden you have your whole entire existence attributed to it.
Yeah.
But that also simultaneously is you kind of have to take a leap of faith and still try not to care, despite how important it is. You know, it's a very fine line.
But a lot of people quit before they even get to that stage. I mean, me and Captain, I had Captain on last week for you here, and we talked about the same topic of like, you know, going full-time without being ready to go full-time or anything. It's like a similar topic, not the exact same, but it's something similar about like just going full-time. I think a lot of people quit before they even do it because they're just like, oh, like, you know, I'm not getting there as quickly as I thought I would. And I mean, I've been doing the podcast, well, solidly twice a week other than one break the last year now, and I only, in quotation marks, have 2,000 subscribers. I'm very satisfied with where I'm at based on the amount of people, including yourself, Sniff, who I've been able to get on the podcast. And I feel like that's also why I'm able to look past the numbers, because like if you know, if the numbers were that big of a deal, I wouldn't have you being interested in coming on, right? If it was if the numbers meant all that much, I'd have to have a lot more subscribers to have you on. But then you kind of get to a point where you realize people can enjoy your content without it reflecting in the numbers. It doesn't always have to show that.
Well, and also it's like it's not something you see very often. Like, I mean, I mentioned that I've been on other podcasts before, but even then I would say like there's not like, I don't know, very many like podcasts in the Minecraft community. So it stands out just by that alone.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there are a few. I mean, like, but they don't really do the whole interviewing or the whole concept of interviewing. I don't like to call it interviewing podcasts. It's easier, but we're having a chat. I mean, if there was an interview, I'd be asking you questions about you and then moving on to the next topic. But we've been here for, geez, it's already been 15 minutes talking about how we feel about content creation. So I guess it's a whole different ball game. But you know, something original, so I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to, you know, avoid the topic of content creation when I'm present. So
I mean, you're full-time content, right?
Yes, I've been for 3 years this November.
Oh, jeez. And you're doing like fine with it, completely fine with it.
Oh gosh, no, and yes, like it's. I have my moments. Like that's the thing is, I actually really enjoy being transparent with my audience about my income and just like kind of how I live, because I think again, like the the internet is fake, and there's so many people who are putting out this appearance of a super lavish lifestyle when in reality that's like not entirely the case all the time, you know? So I definitely have shared with the audience like moments where I'm financially struggling. I mean, I've had, you know, my cat last year, I had to get a really major surgery that took out a lot of my savings. I got laid off from my org in January. Like, there's so many things that I am willing to talk about because I think it's important for financial transparency in this industry, especially when it comes to an industry where the wage gap can vary so much.
So when you say like yes, I mean, kind of in the whole transparency thing here. When you say yes, but also no, what do you mean?
Like, it's so hard because I'm so lucky. Like, there are so many ways in which I have been set up for some type of success in my life. Not like, that makes me sound like a Nepo baby, but I just mean in the sense of I had access to parents who were willing to teach me financial literacy. I had, you know, good schooling. I had like all this different stuff that gave me the knowledge and understanding of how to exist. And so I say yes and no in the sense of there are moments like that. My income can vary from anywhere between like, you know, if let's say theoretically, if 100% was this medium, it can vary anywhere from 50% to 150% from month to month, you know? So it's like some months it's like, okay, I have to be very conscious of my spending and what I'm doing. And I need to make sure that I'm saving and doing this. And then other months it's like, okay, yeah, maybe I can, normally what I do when I'm having a good month is I try and do a charity stream or something like that. Because again, that's a stream where like, I know that I've got it down for the month, so I want to spend my extra time doing something for someone else.
My situation is so different. So I work. It's funny that you said before the podcast, oh my god, leaking DMs that you were making a coffee because no way, regular viewers, I'm a barista. It's become an inside bit now where I think I mention it every single podcast because
my partner was a barista.
No way.
So, yeah.
Oh my god. I make coffees and all that kind of jazz. Anyway, so like every single pay slip, because I kind of I don't really pay the team too much. I'm very transparent about what I do, but I'm kind of quiet about what I do like for my team in a sense. One thing, I have like a team of 9 people. I commissioned someone called FaZe Ray to draw every single one of them a brand new profile picture, so that's one thing. And also kind of like some of them like do obviously more work than others, so there's like editing and stuff. Anyways, point is I get paid from work, and then like as soon as I get paid, a lot of that money kind of just goes back into content creation, which is really bad. Look,
like it's bad and it's not, you know, like I'm the same way. Like once I started making more money on YouTube, I immediately thought to myself, okay, now I need to get translators. Like and then pretty much all of the extra money that I was then making is now going into paying people to translate my videos. So I do get it in that sense. And then I'm also the same way with my team. I don't have a particularly big team. I feel like calling it a team is not even entirely fair because they're all the people that I've worked with are content creators in their own right as well. I try to be as generous as possible because I understand how weird it is in the world right now, especially if you're living in America financially.
What I mean is I use like I don't use YouTube money to pay. I use my own income of what I've worked hard. I'm working hard and investing like a good amount back into content creation, and like I also have really killed my sleep schedule. The more I talk about it, the more I realize that I might be doing something very wrong here. Then also like I was talking about it with someone at work today. I was like, it feels right. Like it feels like it's the right thing to do if I spend like if I can, because I'm investing right. I'm not just wasting my money, right? Everywhere I put my money.
And then also good. This is something you enjoy, right?
True. So I'm paying for my passion.
Yeah, because like I mean, even like I feel like everyone puts money into their hobbies. Like
True, yeah.
I mean, when I was younger, you know, the last job that I had before content creation was working with the Minecraft marketplace, and I would pretty much get like whenever I got my pay from that, I would pretty much use it to buy like canvases and like art supplies, like, which I definitely shouldn't have been doing. I should have been saving more and stuff like that. But I was definitely on that same page of like, sometimes I feel like we tend to undervalue the importance of like hobbies and passions and things like that in our lives, especially like financially. I feel like the sleep thing you should definitely look at, but I feel like as far as like spending money on it, you know, and especially since like you're spending money like hiring people, like that's one thing I try.
I don't want to get caught by the law of not taxing and stuff. We'll say commissioning people.
Well, that's yes. I should clarify. Contractors, you're contracting like independent contractors.
Yeah, that's better.
That's one thing that I never. That's one thing that I never particularly feel bad about in terms of like spending money on my job is like contracting people. Like I love commissioning artists. Like I won't lie. There's definitely been times where like I did not need to do a whole entire commission for it, but I was like, yeah, I want to do that. Like, you know, because I feel like especially in this community, like most of the people, like editors, thumbnail makers, stuff like that, there's so much, like, I don't know, there's so much community in it. And also, I just appreciate them so much. I don't know if that makes any sense. But yeah.
I love, like, I mean, that's why I was so excited to have you on, because I love artists. I love that kind of stuff. There was no reason for me to, I mean, it's for the wiki. All of them had their own PFPs that they had. I was using them on the wiki. But I've already just thought, you know what? I can have a consistent theme here. Why don't I just commission 9 different profile pictures for 9 different people who aren't even guaranteed to be on the team forever? And something in my head was just like, yeah, do it. And I was like, sure, yeah. And no, but no, with that, I guess to clarify a little bit more on the hot money thing, my reasoning for it is firstly, it's a passion, but secondly, I've kind of always just had this mentality of, and it's the same thing that I have with the sleep, is lose money now in the hopes that I gain more money in the future, because I'm kind of convincing the team to stay. And then at one point, InsideMC is becoming a passive income. I mean, I'm not earning crazy amounts, but I'm getting a payout every month. It's a little bit of extra money a month that I didn't have for that. And so be it, I've actually technically lost money because I've spent it. But at one point in a year's time, if I keep spending this amount, that passive income will hopefully start earning that money back. And then with the sleep thing, I just don't like sleeping. I'm just not really a big fan.
Well, that's fair. I'm also an insomniac, so I will say, like, you know, especially with this job, it's like I definitely have had those moments where like I can't believe this is gonna sound crazy. Okay, I've definitely had moments where I'm like, I don't know if I get paid enough to do this, which is crazy coming from me as a full-time content creator. And I'm saying that in the sense of like I get paid for the labor I do right now, but also I think constantly about like there was years of unpaid labor I put into this job in order to get to where I am now. And I feel like a lot of people, once they get to that part where they're full-time, they completely forget about all of that they did, you know, which is not to say I'm like not grateful, because I totally am, and I will forever be grateful for the position I'm in. It's just like sometimes I'm like, wow, Cassie, you're really doing too much right now. You know, it's just, I feel like it's important always to share that though, because again, I feel like there's so many content creators that have this idea of like what it looks like to succeed, and succeeding isn't always what people think it is.
If you don't mind me asking, what did you do before, like what did you do for work before you went full-time content? Or like if you were studying before you did it, what were you doing before?
I was working in the Minecraft marketplace.
Oh, okay. Before, have you ever had, and I really hate using the word, but it's the only way I can get my point across it.
A real job? Is that what you want to say?
IRL job.
Yes, I have.
Job. There we go.
Yes, I have.
Do you mind me asking what you were doing there?
Yes, of course. This is like, I feel like everyone could guess this, kind of, not gonna lie. I was a camp counselor.
Oh.
Well,
I see it. Yeah.
I was a camp counselor for an art-based camp. So it's like, and I say camp because we ran a thing in the summer, but we also did after-school programs. Basically, it was like a very small group of kids, and it was only me and a few other adults. So it wasn't even like that. It wasn't like a full-blown, you know, school or whatever. We just like, you know, we're an after-school program. The whole point is like we had a lot of art supplies, a lot of recycled art supplies, and recycled materials. And the kids just like crafted, and I was there to like help monitor, you know, if they were going to use the hot glue gun, I had to make sure, you know, they weren't going to burn themselves. The amount of needles I've threaded in my lifetime from that job. That's like, and that's the thing too, is like, it was, I think the age range was like first to, I think we had a couple 5th graders at one point. So like, you know, it was this pretty large age range of like 7 all the way to like 12, which doesn't seem like that big of an age range, but like developmentally it is, you know. know?
Yeah.
So you have to, it was definitely a lot of like learning how to talk. And also a lot of these kids were neurodivergent, which I didn't like go through any special training to, help like take care of these types of kids, but I grew up neurodivergent myself, and so it made connecting with a lot of them really easy and also really special, because I found that I developed really healthy relationships, and a lot of them felt very comfortable, being neurodivergent in front of me, and it was a very fulfilling job that I do occasionally miss sometimes. It obviously did not pay well at all. It was there's not anyone who works in childcare knows that there's not enough pay in that, but it was still one of my favorites I've ever worked. And every now and then I think to myself, I'm like, I honestly would consider, and even now as a content creator, like going back and working in a summer camp or working in child development or something like that. It is strangely important to me. I feel like we don't put enough care into our kids nowadays. I feel like, and it's hard because, again, it's like I don't even blame people because people have to work so much so they can't spend as much time with their kids. But even like I feel like our standards for daycare have gone down, and I really feel like very passionate about child development. Which is funny because I don't want kids, but
it's times like this which I really wish I could talk about what my family does, but I really just don't want to risk because I don't mind saying about what I do, right? But I just don't want to risk the factor of just saying what my parents.
Oh, that's totally fine.
Like we could have a really good conversation here if it wasn't on the podcast, which is really.
No, and you're welcome. You're welcome to DM me or whatever, because I get it, dude. It's such a strange thing, but it actually does show in my content a lot, believe it or not. I feel like the main reason I started making YouTube content specifically is because I was looking at the Minecraft content creation sphere, and I'm going to be honest, and this is like not to shade anyone, but also like whatever. I was really disappointed with the direction that like content was taking, especially for younger people. And by that, I mean people who are like 13 and younger, who I know technically aren't supposed to be watching YouTube, but obviously do with their parents. I just felt like a lot of it, and this isn't even just like with YouTube, this is just with like children's media in general. I feel like I see so much of it kind of being dumbed down, And I just really feel like we gotta give kids more credit. Like, they're smarter than that. They deserve story. They deserve like critical thinking and stuff like that, which again, you don't normally associate with kids, but at a time where they're developing it, it's really important for them to see examples of it, like connections and things like that, which is the main reason why I started integrating like education into my content, because I wanted people to understand that there are connections between the world that we live in and the worlds that we play in.
This is why I love the podcast so much, is because I don't know why I said that so slowly. My brain kind of just farted for a second. This is why I love the podcast so much. It's because of like talks like this, for instance, when you said about the whole implementing education, or I know I like the majority of my listeners are older listeners, right? But there's a lot of people who comment, or there's a lot of like content creators in the scene who I know are a bit younger who watch the podcast or are going like, oh, this is a really good episode, and you're like, they're a younger content creator. I know they are because I've seen them around, and I think it's like that's why I love the podcast are like these talks so much, because we haven't really talked about you yet. We have, but we haven't, right? We've more talked about just content as a whole or what it's like, and this has been very, very educational so far, and we will get to talk to you at one point, as long as you have enough time to, because I'm happy for the podcast to be any length. I don't know, so however long you want to make it, but like I just think talks like this are well needed, and that's why I guess the path I try to take with the podcast is talk to content creators, learn about them, learn how they got to what they did, and kind of just have real talks with them that people just don't have in content.
Oh yeah,
this talk that we're having right now, how often is this actually talked about amongst content creators publicly?
No, I know, and it's interesting because I talk about it so much with my IRLs, especially like, and I do talk about it with other content creators, but I am not friends with a lot of that makes it sound like there's no specific reason, but most of my friends are streamers, which is obviously like catering to a completely different audience, and I still obviously have older audience members. I think like it's actually funny, my biggest demographic is like 18 to 24, but like the way in which I design my content, it's very much so like I try to make it so that like anyone who's older can enjoy it, but also a parent could sit down with a kid and watch it. And I've gotten actually like a lot of comments like that, especially where like I think there was one the other day that was like this old man, he was like, I watched this with my granddaughter and she loved it, can't wait for the next episode. And I was like, it's really awesome.
And it's now been 2 months.
Listen, that's no thing. I am a slow poster, and I will die on that hill. It's just like, it is a conversation that really needs to be had, though, because like simultaneously I want, like, this is where nuance really comes into this conversation of like, I completely understand content creators making the choices that they do, especially, and again, in a society where you need to earn money to live. So, I understand, like, fast made content, maybe content that's like less thought out, stuff like that, again, because the YouTube algorithm favors posting. However, for childhood minds and childhood development, I feel like personally it's important to me to create content that maybe does take a little bit longer to make, but has something where someone can watch it and come away learning something, or come away with a new thought or idea or message or even moral.
I like real talks. I'm very I haven't yet. Maybe if the opportunity comes up, I will. I kind of go on like mini rants, and I always make sure it's fine to stay in, and everyone's always fine with it staying in, because it's me saying it, not them. But yeah, I'm very straightforward. I always have been. I sugarcoat myself quite a lot, because obviously I just don't want to come off as a dickhead.
No, I know, and that's why I keep saying I'm like, I don't blame people, but like, it's really hard, because
it's fine. No, but I think like by now people understand that we are just having a conversation. Like you don't like. I understand why you do it.
Oh yeah, and also like at the end of the day, me saying this isn't going to actively hurt anybody. Like, do
you know the mentality?
In my opinion,
do you know how I see it? And this is how I word it, and this is how I've worded it on multiple podcasts. And you might love this. Okay. I'm not talking about you specifically. If you think I'm talking about you, that's your problem, not mine.
Yes.
I never want to say your name, but if you're listening to this podcast and you think, damn, that relates to me a lot, that's your problem. I never accused you. I never said it was you. You're thinking that yourself. That's what I say. There you go. See, and that sums up for the rest of the podcast.
That's very fair. And and that's definitely how it comes. Like, that's how I think about anything really when it comes to criticizing content in media. Like, I mean, and here's the thing is, this is this also ties back into everything that we were talking about before. I think if you're going to be a content creator, you have to be okay with critiques, like criticization, or whatever the fuck it's called. Sorry, how to explain this? Sorry, let me restate that. If you're a content creator, you have to be okay with people critiquing the media that you create, right? Like, you can't expect, like, imagine if somebody released a movie and then was like, yeah, but actually you can't say anything about it,
Then I just music copyright.
Yeah, like,
and you're not allowed to use it.
And this is the thing too, is like, and again, this also applies to me. I've had people critique my content. I've had people critique me as a person and whatever. And like, the thing is like, where that self like protectiveness and that self-preservation comes in is learning when to take it and when not to, and when to take it to heart and when to see it as honest. But also simultaneously, it's like, people are going to critique you. People are going to have opinions on the things that you create. I feel like that's the whole point of art in general, so it's like, me sitting here and critiquing someone else is not me attacking them personally. It's like the process of art and creation.
I also want to add, like, in the content creation field, some people are straight up just hating. They're not critiquing, they are just being rude. But
yes, that's true.
But with content creation, you always just have to take it as if they're some people are genuinely trying to be trying to help you, but their wording is just horrendous where they come off as a hater. Sometimes I think how I do it is like, I take it all advice, right? Some of it's horrible, some of it's nice. You just have to see everything as advice and see if one person is making it, then maybe not so bad. But if 5 people are saying the same thing, but they're all wording it differently, they're still trying to get the same point across. So take that and be like, oh, okay. Although they've all said it differently, 5 people agree with each other here. And you kind of have to I think you should take that and kind of learn from it.
And a lot of this ties into like... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. Just if I uploaded a video...
Oh, I was just saying, like, a lot of this ties into like how we culturally view criticism, like, it's almost always seen as a bad thing. At least, like, again, I'm American. Like, I'm just saying that because I don't know if it's much different in the UK or something like that. But like, here in our very hyper capitalist society, like, critique for some reason is like the worst thing you can get. Like, people treat it like it's like almost always it's like seen as personal, when I don't think that it should be. And I feel like that's connected to also, this whole thing of like the idea that people can change and grow, like, or that you yourself can change and grow, like that for some reason critique is seen as negative because it's implying that you should change and that change is bad, but it's not.
It's just about improvements.
And also, again, I really don't think that change is as bad as people think it is. I understand it's scary. I mean, trust me, I understand it's scary in any way, whether you're changing your art or you or color of your bedroom wall. Like, it's scary. I have like literal cry sessions about it because, I'm extremely neurodivergent, but at the end of the day, it's beneficial to everybody.
Something that, like, because we really got sidetracked. So remember how, like, a few minutes ago I asked you, what did you do for work before content?
Yeah.
The reason I asked was because just before that you said about how you did a lot of work without being paid for it. We've moved on from the topic. I kind of just wanted to say it because
you want to run back or?
Yeah, no, it's not about running back. I just wanted to say what my point was going to be because there was meant to be a point from it and we kind of just yapped away, which is great. I'm not complaining.
Oh, sorry.
No, don't. Like I said, I'm not complaining. It's great. But I was just going to say something along the lines of that kind of links back into what I was saying about the whole spending money thing. I mean, if you'd never done all that free commission work or free work or whatever, like, and you kind of just saw it and was like, oh, I should be getting paid for this instantly, or you didn't build up your CV in a sense, would you be a full-time content creator right now? I think that's what people need to learn with the whole views thing and stuff. Like, you're not always going to get the recognition, you're not always going to get the numbers, you're not always even going to get the money, but you have to go through those bad patches to get the good patches. And it's a weird link back. We'll carry on talking about this. I just wanted to get my point across before I was lost in thin air forever.
That's totally fine. That's pretty much what I agree with. So yeah, no, that's the thing, and that also again ties into the whole like self-esteem thing. You have to be okay with going through those bad patches. Like it's just part of it entirely. Like you can't avoid it at all. Like, and I feel like that's even just like a whole adulthood thing, like being an adult. Like, if the economy crashes, you can't do anything about it. You gotta be okay with going through it, low key. Not that, I don't know why I use specifically economy, but I'm blowing up the scale to.
I'm blowing it. And if it makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, then that's your problem.
Everyone under the age of 18 scratching their head right now in like terms of like.
You say that, but you won't believe how smart younger people can be. I mean, you said it yourself.
Well, no, I agree.
Sorry. I feel like that was the perfect opportunity, my man.
No, I'm also kind of projecting here because when I was younger, I was very smart, but I still definitely had this concept of what like adulthood was, and then I actually went into it and I was like, oh.
But I wanted it. I thought like I remember when I was like 16. I went to my parents and they had like my parents have always lived in like a really nice house and stuff, and they were always. Well, I mean, they've always kept like me and my brother fed and stuff, and they've had rough patches when I was young and stuff, and it's different. That's a whole story for a whole different day. Maybe if I ever bring my mom and dad on the podcast, who knows? But I remember like looking, I was like looked at the wall and I was like, damn, like it can't be that hard to get money, right? Like I was planning on moving out by the time I was 20 and having my own house and having this and having that. I got a job. And I paid rent / housekeeping. And I bought food and drink and stuff. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm 21 years of age. And I'm just like, 16-year-old me is like, he's stupid. He's an idiot.
Yeah, no. And it's okay though. But that's the thing. It's like, it's okay because you're a child. Like you were a child. And that's the thing is like I always come with this mindset of like with children and when I say children, I'm including teenagers here. Sorry, I don't care. And yeah, I would even include like people in their young 20s. That's another thing that like a whole other topic of like, I think that we are forcing people to grow up too fast. But, I got to give them this credit of like, they're so much smarter than we give them credit for, but we also got to be more patient with them. I definitely feel like there was moments in my childhood / teenagehood / when I was transitioning into adulthood when like I was expected to just know things when the reality is like, what the fuck does a 17-year-old know? Like, you know what I'm saying here? It's definitely like when it comes to how we treat young adults and kids, it definitely needs to be a little bit more nuanced. I think we just all need to be a little bit more kind with each other.
I'm very grateful that like my mom and dad have been very supportive and like helping me, because like the thing is I'm a very smart guy. I feel like when it comes to like content in the podcast, I mean this is part of me bigging myself up, but just how I've gone from what I was to where I am with the podcast in like a year. I like to say I'm doing something right, and I have a method, I have my own plan, and I think it's working. I kind of value myself in that and hard worker, but like there's certain things in life, like I don't know, I can't think of it. Like, okay, this is a crap example, but I'm just gonna think of it. Like turning on the washing machine, right? Like my brain knows how to do it, but I can't fathom the idea of turning this or switching this. I know how to turn on a PC. I know how to download something. I know how to do this. I know how to download something, upload it to a USB, do this, do that for one of my colleagues, right? Or how to fix their PC. But turning on a washing machine, my brain just cannot process it. It can. That's just I couldn't think of anything in the mind of what my brain can't actually process. My brain can process.
No, my thing is laundry. I have a really hard time folding laundry of all things, which is
but then
ridiculous.
Like, and then look at the art you do. So I mean, it's like it's just weird how like the human brain works, and I think people just expect everyone to be. I mean, I've also fallen into the same trap. I remember like when I was kind of writing out content, I'd look at some people around me, and I'm just like, damn, like you have all the free time in the world right now. You should be doing this, or you should be doing that. And I sat back for a second and realized I was like, not everyone has that same work ethic. Not everyone has that same mindset that I have. So I need to understand that these people have the time, but maybe they just don't have the grind set to use that time like I wish I had.
Well, and you also got to be careful with that sort of grind set projection as well, because like, I mean, I think that there's a whole grind set culture, you know, right now. It's hustle culture. It's whatever you want to call it. Like, especially when I think that that's especially prevalent in content creation. You know, you got to be posting 3 TikToks a day. You got to be tweeting, scheduling tweets. You got to be, I know. But like, this is definitely something that I've totally seen. And I think about it a lot too, because that also simultaneously is like, I think that's another example of like, we expect too much of both ourselves and other people, you know, especially when it comes to content creation. We like people expect, or like sometimes you can get into this mindset of like, I should be operating at the same production rate as a literal company, which some content creators can, because they are in fact a literal company. But, you know, it's like, I always have to remind myself, like, okay, Cassie, you, like, can't produce videos at the same speed as Mr. Beast because you don't have a team of, like, 20-something people behind you. And that's okay. Like, and then also when it comes to things like folding laundry, I also have to remind myself, like, yo, dude, you have time to fold laundry, but you also are just working for 10 hours a day. So, you know, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's this idea that we have to be 100% proficient 100% of the time, which is just not accurate. And it's especially not healthy if you're neurodivergent in any way, because a lot of us can experience burnout quicker. And when we do, it's actually very detrimental to both our physical and mental health. Yeah. So, you know, that's really something that's important to monitor, which is also why I don't post that often, as you mentioned earlier with my 2-month video gap.
It was a joke, right? Because you said about
it was.
If you'd let me finish the joke, I was gonna say like that granddad who said they watch you with their like fucking granddaughter or whatever. I was gonna say by the time you next upload, that granddaughter will now be as old as the granddad. But you didn't let me finish the joke, so it wasn't me just digging you out. It was me trying to do something funny. But,
I see.
Sorry, I know you've done like a really good transition there, which we will move into. I just want to say one more thing, is that when I said about the whole grindset thing, it's a better reword what I want to say. So I know you didn't take it badly, but just for my own sake, I had to do this. I'm all meant that I really like to keep my brain working. I don't really know what's wrong with me, and I'm not saying there's something wrong with me. This is going to take a minute for me to explain what I want to say to get the right wording, because if I talk to one of my friends, I don't actually have to explain to them what I mean, and they'll understand what I mean. But to you or the listeners who don't really know me properly, this is yeah. Anyway, so for a very long time I was really demotivated with content for some bizarre reason with the podcast, and why I don't sleep so much. So over the weekends, right, and it's so strange. I go to bed at like 11. I wake up at 6 a.m, respond to a bunch of messages that I might have missed overnight, do some stuff, do this, do that. I go back to sleep, wake up 2 hours later, and I'm really tired, but I'm wide awake at 6 a.m, but then I'm tired at 8 a.m, then I'm wide awake at 9 a.m, and it's really strange. Like, my brain is always constantly working, and when I say I don't know what's wrong with me, it's because this has kind of just come out of nowhere for the last like 7 or 8 months. I love it, and it's great, and then I also look at other people, and I'm like, I understand why they're not like that, so I'm not saying anybody should be like how I am, but for some reason, my brain is just so different, where people have looked at me and they're just like, what? How are you doing this? How are you doing that? And it's just like, I don't know. For my thing is, I'm not about this whole grind set mentality. I just love to work, and maybe I'm addicted to it. Maybe something about the podcast.
That is something you gotta be careful about. When I first started streaming on Twitch, I was still a senior in high school. So I would go to school every single day, come home, stream, make a TikTok, do my homework, and then pass out at 1 a.m., wake up at 6 a.m., repeat. So like, I've been there. Like, that's for sure. Now I'm not so much like that. Actually, well, I think I disagree. I feel like the only reason why I feel like I'm not like that now is because I enjoy my work a lot more. Because like I'm kind of in the same thing of where I constantly work, but I try not to treat it. I don't think that working super often when you love what you do is like, inherently tied to hustle culture, especially when you're creating something that you genuinely love. Again, I feel like that's where the combination of like passion, hobbies, and an actual job comes into play. Because it's like, if I finish up, recording after this and I go paint, is that me doing a hobby or is that me working,
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just love it, and I don't really have too much. I just have the barista work, and obviously I have my family, but I've been able to juggle it all, and I think that's because of the lack of sleep. But I just don't like sleeping. I don't know, something about it. I'm not insomniac. I'm not anything. I just don't. I just see it as a waste of time, which is probably a really bad mindset. Because I do sleep. Like what I do is I kind of like my sleep schedule Monday to Friday, then I make up for it Saturday, Sunday, and sometimes like midweek, like Wednesday or something, I will go like maybe tonight or tomorrow I'll get like, oh, it's Monday. God, this is your midweek. See, lost for time. We're recording on a Monday, and I think it's bloody Wednesday. Maybe on Wednesday, like I'll just get really, really tired and go to bed at like 10 p.m. as opposed to my normal like 1 a.m., which is the 3 hours extra sleep that I wasn't getting prior.
I mean, so you wake up at 1 and then you you go to bed at 1 and you wake up at 6?
It depends on the shift. So if I'm opening, which is a 7:30 start, I'll wake up at 6:30 and I'll go to bed at 1:30. If I'm starting at 10 o'clock, if I'm starting at 10 o'clock, then I'll wake up at 9 o'clock, so I'll go to bed at like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. Not 4 o'clock. Never. It's not late. Like about 2 or 3.
I hate to say it, like that's not the worst. I know plenty of people who like just naturally run on like 5 hours of sleep.
5 hours is my minimum. Yeah. I don't go below that.
Yeah, which is like that's more normal than you think. I think actually, my PT, she goes to bed I think at 8 p.m. and wakes up at 2. So that's the same thing, like 5 hours of sleep. And her literal job is exercising. So like, there's plenty of people out there that are like that. I am in some ways like that. I'm very much so a creature of the seasons, unfortunately. Meaning in the winter, I tend to sleep more. In the summer, I tend to sleep less.
Hibernation.
Yes.
You hibernate during the winter. That's crazy.
I mean, I don't know. It's really just the sunshine. I am very much so like my body is very much so in tuned with like lunar solar cycles. So
I should say we've been recording for 52 minutes now.
Oh yeah, do you want to ask me like an actual question or sorry?
Yeah, I probably should. We should get into talking about you now. This has been great so far. I can't believe it doesn't feel like 52 minutes. It's mental.
I mean, you asked me like about my job, like, so I feel like that
counts. You won. I mean, the thing is, right? Like I said, I bring you on the podcast doesn't mean I'm always having to interview you. It's just about whatever we talk about, right? This discussion I have.
Well, I know the questions are always just gateways into more things, anyways.
Like kind of linking back into the whole what you did for work beforehand. How did you go from that to Minecraft content creation?
Like how I started content creation? Is that what you're asking?
There you go. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was already working in the Minecraft scene. I was a professional builder.
How did you get into that then? There you go.
Oh, well, honestly, luck.
Oh.
And that's one thing I do have to really say. I knew the right people, pretty much. I think it started when I met my friend Brooke, who is still one of my very close friends, and she still works professionally for the Razzleberries. And she and I were just very close from when I was like 12 to now. So we've been friends for a very long time. And she pretty much taught me how to build in Minecraft. And so she came to me one day and she was like, dude, I got an interview with a Minecraft Marketplace team. And I was like, dude, that's insane. Like, that's so cool. And I was 16 at the time. And she was like, they're interested in hiring more women because they were trying to diversify their team. Which, not to like accidentally be the diverse hire, but I think, it is what it is. So they,
I mean, it worked out for you. So, take it there, I guess.
They asked to interview me as well. And I said, yeah, of course. So I took an interview. They had us test build a map. And then they were like, great, you can come work on projects for us. And I only actually worked on a few projects. I mostly didn't do my own maps. I was like kind of the interior guy, is what I was. So people would like build their maps and then they would go, hey, Sniff, all of these houses is there all of these buildings need to be furnished in Minecraft. Can you build furniture? And I say, okay. And I just watch anime and make the same interior over and over again, which wasn't that fulfilling, but that's okay. I got paid to play Minecraft, which is what I wanted when I was a teenager. It was definitely interesting. I had a lot of coworkers who were much older than me. I did feel very awkward in that sense of being the youngest one on the team, but it was still super fun. And I'm very grateful for Brooke for he got that opportunity and then invited me into it, and I'm very thankful for that. As far as content creation goes, I started posting my modded builds on TikTok. I really love building with Chisel and Bits. Anyone who's seen my content probably knows that, but for people who don't know, Chisel and Bits is a mod that lets you build with micro blocks. So really small Minecraft blocks. And so I just started building with Chisel and Bits in my free time, because obviously you can't for the Minecraft marketplace. And then I started posting them, and they just started doing really well on TikTok. And that was usually as far as I was going to go. But then I saw how many Minecraft TikTokers were also streamers. So I was like, I'll give streaming a try. And that's kind of the whole thing.
I've always been really unlucky with the Minecraft marketplace. So when I was about your age, I started up command block tutorials on Bedrock Edition, and I was really good at them. I'm I talk about it's my old content. So I remember one time I got reached out to, because I owned a Facebook group, which is long gone. If anyone finds it, my real name's on it anyway, so it's fine. And I got reached out to help someone do command blocks for their new map that they were working on. It's as soon as I do the commands, they'd pay me. Perfect. So I did a few commands, and then they was actually, we're not doing this anymore. And I was oh, but I did the commands for you, and I spent my time doing this. And yeah, there's yeah, no, but we're not doing it anymore, so you're not getting paid. I was oh, okay. And then it was never, it didn't actually, I wasn't promised anything with this. I was just told that when CubeCraft were going to open up what's called applications for command blocks or thing, they would I'd be one of the first people they came to. And so I was waiting for ages, because I loved CubeCraft. And then they said it was going to teach me how to script and all that kind of jazz, and it's going to be perfect. But by the time they eventually opened up applications, I'd moved away from command block tutorials completely, and I was doing commentary videos. So I also had my chance to kind of work in the whole marketplace scene, but I never really did. Not building, I can't build, but
I mean, it was very nice, because I had tried content creation a little bit before I started working in the Minecraft marketplace. Obviously, I did not have success anywhere to the scale that I have now, but I was very young. I was 15, 14, and I just very quickly learned that I think I kind of had this some self-awareness of I think I'm too young for this right now. Not to say that if you're 15, 16, you can't content creation. Obviously, there's really good examples of that working for people, cough, cough, Tommy in it. But for me, I'd realized very quickly, I was whoa, this is not for me right now as the person I am. But when I returned to content creation, I didn't really expect it to go anywhere. I just was returning to it for fun. But I am really glad that it did go somewhere, because it is kind of my drive in life.
Everything happens for a reason, and you just weren't able to, content wasn't your calling at that point. It is now. It has been for the last 3 years. So you obviously got into streaming and stuff. What did you start streaming? Was it Minecraft completely, or did you do a variety?
It was Minecraft pretty much completely. The first game I streamed was technically not Minecraft. It was a game called Grease, if you've ever heard of it. It's
no,
I'm pretty sure it's classified as an indie game. And then I just started streaming Minecraft because I'm kind of in love with Minecraft, obviously. It's it's very much so my interest. It's kind of my entire life, and it always has been since I can remember, from the sense of Minecraft just turned 15. I'm 21. When I was 6, I remember watching my sister play the game, saying, wow, I want to play that. And then everything changed from there.
Oh, you're the same age as me. I thought you was 1 year older. So we've literally been you did work for the Bedrock marketplace. There was probably at one point where I've played one of your worlds genuinely that you've built on. And there's a possibility that I have actually just been on one of those. That's crazy. How did you kind of grow within the scene then? Because obviously you went from building on worlds and stuff. What would you say was your biggest? Did you have a big video? Did you have a big TikTok? Did you have a big stream? A big raid? Everyone kind of, not everyone has their moment, but have you had a moment?
It's really interesting, because a lot of people actually debate my moment. When was the moment that Snifferish started getting really popular? And it was definitely back in 2021. So I feel like, again, things come in waves, but I think the first wave was 2021. I remember in the beginning of January, I said, I really want to hit 100K. Like, I just had this gut feeling. I was like, if I hit 100K on Twitch, something's going to happen, right? So I streamed every single day until I hit 100K. And then from there, all of a sudden, people just started talking about me. Like, I really don't know how to explain it other than, like, it just kind of suddenly happened. My TikTok started doing really well. Again, I was posting daily on TikTok as well. My TikToks all started doing really well at the same time. A lot of the like bigger content creators in the community started to acknowledge me, or, you know, especially this also coincided with like Women's International History Month, and that also like had people talking about me a lot because there was a lot of discussion about the female representation within the Minecraft community at the time. And at the time, I thought I was cis, so I was very much so like, yes, hi, I am a woman and I play Minecraft and I do this and that. And so there was, I won't lie, to a degree, part of the growth was a little bit performative. Not by me, but just in the fact of a lot of the community was like, yes, woman. And that definitely didn't hit me until a lot later when I realized that, like, okay, that's like not efficient, or that's like not, that's a whole other thing, to be honest. But I was sort of like late February, early March, and then I went on a platonic lover host for a person who I cannot speak about, and that kind of boosted my popularity a little bit. Everyone seems to think that that was like my big moment, but it was like 2 weeks before that is when it really started kicking off. And then I just started streaming a lot to like try and, you know, capitalize off of it. And then, you know, I got invited to the Bear SMP, which was a pretty big thing for me as well. And, you know, I'm going to talk about this because we're talking about highs, and I feel like you can't talk about highs without acknowledging the lows. But in summer of 2021, I started dealing with like severe mental health issues. And then in September, I moved and I took like a really long break. And to be honest, I haven't really streamed consistently since then. And I feel like it's important to talk about that because, again, it's like, okay, well, you haven't streamed consistency, but you're a full-time content creator. And it's interesting because I think I knew earlier than I wanted to admit that streaming wasn't for me. So I kind of refer to that area, like I see my content in eras, you know, not to Taylor Swift reference, I guess. I don't know how that works. I see my content very much so in eras. And so I always look at that era and that first wave as like an era where, you know, I was like, my main source of content was streaming. And there was that first big initial wave, and then that had to fizzle out because, again, I didn't stream. Like, hot take, guys. If you don't stream on Twitch, you can't really grow. Crazy idea. I know.
Man, I wish I kind of like, I try to stream as much as I can alongside content creation, and I do really enjoy streaming. But I do still stream. I just can never really find my footing to know like what I want to do on the stream. Like, I'm doing parkour at the moment, but I can't really get something that I'm just like, yeah, this is shit hot. People love this. I'm kind of just streaming for myself now.
I still love to talk about that era because it you know, a lot of people, it's like for the whole year after that, I kind of had this mindset of like, oh my god, I fell off. Like, I'm being so for real right now. I'm like, oh my god, I fell off. I like suck. My content creation is bad. Like, I had this whole thing because, again, I stopped streaming, and when I was streaming, my heart just was not really that into it. And I honestly think, looking back, it's like, it's really important. This is where like critique and self-critique is really important. I look back into that era and I think about how I felt, how I actually felt versus like how I wanted to feel, and my mindset around content creation and numbers and growth and stuff like that. And it's really hard because, again, that was like still kind of during like peak pandemic. People weren't really in school, or they were in hybrid or completely remote. So there was a lot more people watching Twitch in general. The Minecraft community was absolutely thriving. So growth was insane for almost everybody. I had to look back at that, and I have to remind myself that just because I don't experience growth like that nowadays doesn't mean that I'm failing. You know, it's really important to kind of ground myself again. And I feel like I've completely shifted gears. I mean, obviously I post on YouTube now and I do TikToks. I very rarely stream, but it's certainly a better place than I used to be. Because, again, streaming unfortunately did not put me in the best mindset, and especially like mental health wise. I think that interacting with fans and stuff like that is really important. I do think to a degree it got to be a little bit too much for me, just like parasocially.
then that's knowing what you like and what you don't like, right? I think a lot of people kind of, I mean, I had Crinio, sorry to refer to other people, it's just why I kind of...
No, it's okay. No, I love Crinios. Crinios is like literally, yeah, don't worry. I can talk about Crinios, don't worry.
I had Crinios on like a few weeks back, 2, 3, at one point this year, within the last 2 months, there we go. And we were talking about how like he took a few hiatuses, and one thing that we kind of like talked about, which was good, was that, for instance, January last year, I had something not very cool happen to me, and no, not January last year. Yeah, no, yeah, so I was still making content, but I privated my Twitter. I was still streaming, and that's the only time people could really interact with me. I went off Discord, I went off everything, other than when like talking to my online friends. As like content, like interactions with community only really happen through streams, and you know, and that's what was good for me. I was still able to make content, but I didn't want to really interact with people directly through Twitter or whatever. I didn't want to tweet about stuff. I did that for a solid like 4 months. But Grinius was talking about how like he took a big hiatus, and it was to deal with his mental health and stuff like that, or something along those lines. And we were saying about how it's so good that he did that, because a lot of creators do try too much to push through it, and like, you know, with you there, you know your limits, you know what to do and what not to do. But a lot of creators will be like, okay, yeah, I'm struggling, but like if I stop now, then my content's gonna die off, or people aren't gonna be interested in me if I come back in like 2 months. But you need to kind of, a lot of people push through it and they make their situation worse, so they do things that mess them up. And things about learning what to or what not to do, or when to take a break or when not to take a break, or what content works best for you.
And I definitely think even the community now, the Minecraft community, has like evaluated, like looking back at like 2020, 2021, like how different like the culture and the way that we experience things in the community was. I think we've definitely strayed away from like some of the parasocial mindsets and stuff like that. I think my biggest issue, and again, I want to clarify when I talk about this isn't me saying like I am a perfect person and everyone else has the issue, because that's definitely not the case. I think that's the complete opposite of the case sometimes. But I definitely had this issue where in 2021, I was 18. I had just barely become an adult. I was still in school, still living with my mom. And for some reason, though, everyone was kind of aging me up a little bit, you know? And as a result, I felt like I was expected to act more mature. I was expected to handle things maturely. I was expected to do this and that. And don't get me wrong, 18 is legally an adult, but I do think that we, you know, don't always... I think there's a really big difference between an 18-year-old who has moved out and is living by themselves versus an 18-year-old that just got their, like, high school diploma. And so my issue especially is I feel like people built up this expectation for me that I was older, mature, wiser, that I didn't make mistakes and I was kind and blah, 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 blah. You know, whatever persona they conjured of me. And then I would occasionally break that persona, and it would cause a lot of upset. It would cause a lot of like, whoa, wait a minute. Versus now I think we've definitely transitioned more into this mindset of like a healthier mindset of like, okay, content creators don't personally know their audiences, and audiences don't personally know their content creators, so we cannot set up expectations, which I think is extremely healthy. I think that's exactly how it should be. I think, you know, I'm glad. I almost feel like people are starting to get this with celebrities too, and I think that that's really important. Like, I just personally think that if you don't know someone personally, you should not set expectations for them, because you're only setting yourself up to be disappointed in them potentially and in yourself.
Sorry, I'm doing the thing again where I refer to other podcasts. It's just this is what I do. Okay, it's good because I can talk to multiple people.
No, this is connections are great. I think that they're important to make.
When I talked to Sarah, Tommy and his mum, like a big thing she said was like when he was growing up.
I love Sarah Simons. Sorry, just had to say
amazing.
that.
Yeah, no, she's amazing, Laura. Every little thing he did, like one thing we talked about, me, AJ, because I had AJ on the podcast as well, was you know, like when he grew a beard, or if he got a haircut, or like at one point he was trending alongside like Donald Trump and Biden, and it's like you know, he was so young, like he's our age, younger than us, and it's like, you know, when he did any little thing or anything little thing happened, the community or his viewers would just go crazy. I think it's thinking back to like, oh my god, he has a mustache. Like you don't know him. The fact that you're shocked because he grew a beard just shows how little you know about your streamer. And this is nothing on Tommy, because obviously Tommy's great and he does it.
This is also not even anything on the audiences entirely, because again, it was like such a cultural thing back then. It was such a community thing. Like everyone's acting like this, therefore I must too. You know, it's a group mindset. Anyways, continue.
But yeah, no, I guess I was just trying to, in my own sense, I was just trying to agree with you with the whole point of.
No, I think that's a perfect connection. I definitely had that too. I mean, one thing I think about a lot is everyone used to think that I was really short. I know that sounds really stupid.
How tall are you?
But I'm 5'10".
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm 6'1", so like,
And everyone used to think that I was really short. And I was like, well, why do you guys think that? And I hate to say it, I think a lot of it has to do with, again, building this persona in their head of who I am. And that is probably this short, feminine, kind person who's all cottagecore and whatever. And I'm like, that could be who I am, but that's also not. I'm 5'10". I lift weights. I used to box. Like like there's just like you gotta there was constantly moments where I would have to break that wall, that the fourth wall or whatever, to remind people, hey, this persona you have of me is you don't know me. Like, and also to a degree, I mean, especially being 18, I didn't know myself. Like, if I'm being honest, and to some degree I still don't, and that's okay.
I don't think anyone ever knows themselves. Like, I know it's such a weird take, but I feel like no one ever is 100% knowing of. Like, even me now,
I definitely think you can get older. You can. I definitely feel like I know myself better than I did when I was 18.
Yeah, but I still don't think, like, I mean, it's like with me now, right? I won't get into it too much, but like, as far as I'm aware, I am a straight male. I mean, I go by any pronouns, but no one's ever referred to me as female because, like, I give off masculine vibes. I embrace my feminine side, not really online, because I've never really had the need to do it, I guess. But, like, as far as I'm aware, I'm straight, but like, and I've been like that, but then for the last like 5 years, I can, like, I've always wondered, but then nothing's ever come of it, and nothing's ever changed in the last 5 years. But it's been there. And that's what I'm saying. I feel like I don't ever truly know. I feel like not everyone truly knows themselves, because a lot of people wonder, like, for instance, I have a girlfriend, I'm very happy with her, so for no reason will I ever have to try anything else, because I'm very happy with my girlfriend. But because of that, I will probably never know if there is something else. I don't know why I'm getting into it, but you get what I mean.
No, I get it. I do. And I mean, I've had like that kind of assumptions and stuff with like, this unfortunately does connect to my own personal relationships. I've had a lot of people try, again, because they're trying to make a personification of me in their head, try to make assumptions about my relationships with other people, or even the roles that I play in my partner, like, which is weird. I'm not going to lie. It's weird. Especially when it comes to like gender expression as well. I think that a lot of people think that I'm very feminine because I do present very femininely online, but offline I wear my binder super frequently. I dress pretty masculine. I say, and like same thing with my partner. A lot of people like to assume that they're this and that, but it's like you don't know how they actually are because you don't know them. Like, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And I am slightly glad that I feel like we're moving away from that mindset of like, I am besties with my streamer, I know everything about them, and yeah, I'm glad we're moving away from that. I think that's really important. I think it was more detrimental to streamers' mental health than they were willing to admit,
This is going to be such a hot take, and maybe you don't agree. And
okay, I'm ready.
I haven't actually ever really thought of this. It's kind of just on the spot thinking like, this sounds
I'm ready. I'm ready to hear it. I
feel like parasocial relationships, and I'm not saying because of this, I'm just referencing it. For instance, like Dream SMP, I think a lot of people had a parasocial relationship with people in that. A lot of people just loved the SMP, really fine, but I think a lot of people got very close to streamers without getting close to streamers. And I think a lot of that was because of COVID, because people were at home all the time, right? They didn't go out, they didn't see their IRL friends, so they had to make it. And you weren't in school, right? So a lot of, like, for instance, when I went to school, so I had 5 years of in-person interactions. So be it, I didn't like any of them, still interacted with them 5 years in person. COVID, you didn't really have that unless you snuck out, which your parents weren't letting you because they were scared that you were going to get unwell or bring it back into the house. That you weren't able to go out and meet people. You weren't able to, I mean, FaceTimes, yeah, but then a lot of people grew connections to, oh, what should I do? Oh, let's watch this stream. Oh my god, I love this person's stream. Oh my god, I'm going to make it part of my daily routine to watch this person's stream because they stream daily. Oh my god, like, I feel like I'm building a bond with them. But in reality, like, and it's completely fine to be a fan of someone, but then it also becomes a thing of, I think COVID led a lot of people to believe they were closer
and this
to
is this is an extra hot take, and I'm also saying this knowing that I'm slightly guilty of it, because again, it was kind of a culture thing. I think it didn't help either that streamers were playing into it.
True. Yeah.
I'm saying this knowing that I did it, like, because again, and I will say the reason why I did it is because I felt like that's what I was supposed to do, because I started content creation in 2020, so like 9 months into COVID, so I saw how content creators were interacting with their audiences, and I assumed that was normal. I have come to learn that it wasn't entirely normal, and I'm not saying that like you can't hold relationships with people in your audience, that you can't connect with them. I think that that's still really important, but I do definitely think there was ways ways in which parasocial relationships were encouraged, or at least they weren't discouraged. And it kind of was like a feedback loop. And I do think that the main reason why we're sort of stepping out of that culture now is because a lot of streamers realized, oh, I don't like this. This needs to stop. Like, which I agree with. I think that boundaries are really healthy. And for a while there, we did not have them. And I'm glad that they're coming back.
I will say that, like, I don't like calling my chat. I see a lot of people doing just something about it. I just don't like the idea. So I call them lads, or I go like, but I made it very clear before. I remember once, right, I made a joke, and I was like, it was just on the spot, and I didn't play into it. I was just talking. I was like, oh, I don't like calling you chat because you're all my friends. I was like, wait, never mind. No, you're not. You don't know anything about me. Okay, you're not my. You're not. No, I mean, I love having you as viewers, but you are not my friends.
That's why I always try to use the word appreciate. I've told my audience that I love them, and that's also in a very general sense. But I more than often try to use the word appreciate because I feel like that is the perfect word for it and to describe my relationship with them, you know? And the thing is like, I do think that like there are ways to have healthy relationships with your audience. I definitely feel like for me, it's, you know, playing into their interests a little bit. Like I definitely watch and observe my audience because I feel like that's important to my content. And also, I don't know, I find people fascinating in general, but I'm also very happy that there are parts of myself that my audience will never know about, and you will never know about, and nobody will ever know about because it's here. It's me in my house, and that's all that that's the only place that needs to know about it, you know? And I'm glad about that because I used to think that I really did, especially when I first started content creation and I was in that mindset of, you know, parasocial can kind of be a two-way street, even though that sounds weird because normally you see it as a one-way street. Anyways, I definitely had this mindset of like, oh, I gotta share everything in my life, you know?
Yeah.
Versus now, and I'm like, yeah, screw you guys. I'm going to Canada and not telling you, like, you know.
I guess I just like, I mean, my sharing my life is kind of just through, once again, the podcast. I mean, I'll talk about stuff on stream, but anything, people can really tell how I'm feeling based on what I say on the podcast. Like, for instance, with you, I know I can have a real chat, and people listening to this will clock on, 15 minutes into the podcast and be like, okay, he's in a very, like, talkative, be real, let's just waffle mood because of who I'm talking with. And then there'll be other podcasts where he's like, okay, he's just going to interview this person, they're going to talk a little bit, but it's just going to be kind of knowing who they are, finding out who they are. And I think people are able to clock on that because if you listen so much, and it's like, that's where there's a really weird fine line, right? Because if you watch a streamer enough, it's, for instance, I won't say
you do know things about them, you are going to learn about them.
Yeah. Like, you pick up on their moods. If someone goes live one day and you look at them, you're like, okay, and if they use a face cam, you can be like, okay, you look a bit tired today. And it's not saying they are tired, and it's not in a weird way. It's just when I go to work, for instance, I mean, I work with the same people 5 times a week. I don't know them. I don't know them personally. I don't even know their surnames, right? I can tell one day, okay, you're in a bad mood, or you're in an off mood, or, you know, you're not really feeling like you want to be at work today. You can pick up from it because you've been interacting with this person daily. If you watch a streamer daily, it's not, that's where it gets weird and rough, I feel, because it's like, crap, like, what's parasocial and what's just picking up on how a streamer is, you know? And if it,
well, you know, and that's where I feel like that's the, like, we have really narrowed our definitions of relationships. I feel like in most modern culture, like, I feel like you're either stranger, friend, or lover. Like, that's like all that we've established, and that's like what we kind of maybe throw in like coworker or two.
Yeah,
you know, but we forget the nuance of relationships, like that people can be mentor and mentee. They can be less friends and more brother sister, more sister, you know, like, and I think that there is a whole entire separate category of relationship for entertainer entertained, and we, you know, forgot how to label that. So we start pushing things into these more binary sections, and that's how it gets pushed into friend or even lover, in the sense of some people, you know, develop romantic attraction to streamers, which, don't do that, please. I'm begging you. If you can help it, please. So it's like I do think that there is a whole other category of relationship for entertainer, entertained, and that can be, you know, knowing them a little bit. Obviously, if I share something with you, you listening and hearing about it, and I'm talking to the audience here, you listening and hearing about it and remembering it is not parasocial. It's normal. Like, that is content creation. It's just like how I'm trying to think of an example of, like, I guess, like me and a celebrity. I don't know. Suddenly I'm I'm not really that
I
into
think,
celebrity culture.
I think,
But you know
like-
what I mean? Like if I watch an interview of like Billie Eilish and she says something about her home life and I remember it, that doesn't necessarily make me parasocial. You know, there is a whole other category that we completely like dismiss.
To agree with you there, I think like my wording for it would be like there are instances of healthy parasocial. For instance, you know something about a streamer, you're not obsessed with them, you just really like their content. Like I think you can just be a big fan of someone, and a lot of people turn around and be like, oh my god, like you know so much about them. But that's different, you know, like like remembering that someone has worn the same t-shirt before, or you know, like if you go to like two different concerts of your favorite singer and they wear the same clothes twice, I don't think it's weird to remember that they wore the same clothes twice. Like I will sometimes be in a stream, right, and you know, I'll be lurking and I'll be like, crap, like you played this parkour map like last year, and it's like, it's not weird that I know that. My brain has just remembered that because it wanted to remember that. And I think there are healthy, like I agree with you there. I think people put the terms too loosely. There's not enough terms in the world to kind of fit relationships, I guess. I'm not like love relationships, I mean relationships in general. So I don't know, I guess that's
I certainly agree. I think it's I always I've been saying this a lot recently. I just think the world needs more nuance. I think that we need more, you know, I think we need to allow things to exist in sort of liminal states, or states where situational states, you know. I feel like nowadays it's like everything is so black and white, and I think that we need to be able to not only look at ourselves with nuance, but other people.
Exactly, yeah.
And our relationships with other people.
Kind of backtracking into you here. Rough transition.
Yeah, of course. No, it's okay.
What do you love so much about building? Because like I've been bigging you up at certain points in this podcast. I mean, you make
as a builder.
Yeah, I mean, you're one of your pinned videos like on TikTok has 4.4 million views, and you built a.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know what's been going on recently this year. My TikToks have been doing so well, but I'm so excited about it because I think it's because I really reached a point where I was just super happy to be making them, which sounds funny because I haven't made one in a while, but that's just because I've been so busy.
Yeah.
I first of all, this is something that I actually like. This is gonna sound crazy in the sense of like people might be like, well, how did you not know? I love storytelling. I love storytelling so much. Ever since I was young, I was always creating stories and, you know, building worlds in my brain. Right? And the thing about building, the thing that really got me into building, that, you know, is the reason I still build today, is that when you are when we think of stories, we typically think about written text or, you know, a movie or something like that. But so more often than not, we forget about all the little things that go into storytelling. And for me, a lot of it is visual storytelling. You know, when I create a build, I'm telling a story. You know, especially when it comes to like my chisel and bit things, you know, I would think a really good example of this is this video for a very beloved Patreon member named Atlas, who requested that I build a college dorm. That was one of my favorite builds ever because it really gave me the opportunity to tell a story by the objects placed in the room, or the decorations hung on the wall, or the fact that one of the roommates had mugs lying everywhere because they probably work so much on their projects that they don't have time to take them to the sink, or, you know, something like that. It really, for me, is a thing about storytelling. Like normally when I build a thing, I'm thinking about little stories in my head. You know, why is this way? How did this come to be? And really that's where I find the most entertainment. And sometimes I just build without stories as well, in the sense of I'm creating a visual composition. But I do think, again, even then, visual compositions are a form of story, though they might be more visual than, you know, practical.
I mean, people show what they want to say, or say what they want to show in multiple different ways, right? Through build, through art, through literally, it's going to sound so weird, literally placing a dirt block shows that you want to say that somebody's build is I don't know. Sorry. It's like there's so many ways to, and for me, like, I think a lot of people forget that architecture is art. I mean, architecture is not just art, but like art comes from culture. When you are creating art, you are tying it to a culture, and that culture in and of itself has probably some sort of story, you know?
I think that I'm trying to think about like another good example. A really good artistic example is my Technoblade painting. And so for people who don't know, I created this painting of Technoblade. I actually started it the week that he announced that he was diagnosed with cancer, which a lot of people seem to think that I started it afterwards as a memorial, but that wasn't really the case. And the reason why I created it was because I wanted to raise funds for cancer research. So my idea was I make this painting, I stream it. When I'm streaming it, I do charity for like St. Jude's or something like that. He was very quiet about, having sarcoma at the time. So most people were just donating to St. Jude's in his honor. And the thing about that piece of art is you could look at it and you just think it's a portrait. The way in which it's like it's composed and the way in which it's framed. That's the thing that I feel like people never discuss is the frame, which was so important to me because I constructed the frame myself. And in the main photo,
it looks golden at least.
Yes,
yeah,
it is. And actually something that I don't talk about that often is when after I took those photos that I posted on Twitter, I actually went and gilded it.
What does that
I don't know
mean?
so gilding something is covering it in gold, but typically the main way you gild is you put on like some type of material and then you use gold leaf, which is very, very, very finicky and very, very, very hard. And I've only ever done it for one painting before. But for me, it's interesting because the story in that piece is the effort that I'm putting into it. The story in that piece it's something that took a long time, something that was made very purposely and technically, because the purposefulness and the technicality are attributed to the person. It's like I guess the only way I can really describe it is like royal portraiture. Like why do monarchs have portraits commissioned of them? Well, it's something that takes a really long time. It's something that and time is money. So like that's always one thing to also consider, like if we're talking about like literal value. But also like you look at royal portraits and they're typically donned in their accomplishments, their armor or their crown or something like that. And that's exactly what I did with the Technoblade painting because I wanted it to look like a royal portrait, and by making it into a royal portrait, I was telling a story about royalty without even mentioning the word royalty.
So much thought went into it, like you just wouldn't. That's like literally, you've explained it perfectly there of how you talked. You were saying something and you were portraying something through your painting, and it's surely a masterpiece. It's actually amazing. That I just wouldn't ever clock onto unless you told me there. I just see it as a beautiful painting, but there's so much behind it.
Mm-hmm. And then like I was gonna say with the frame as well, it's really difficult to see on the photos, but I actually went through the effort of learning how to burn wood, like wood burn. You know what I mean by that? Like
yes, I've seen it happen.
Yeah, so like burned into the wood is the phrase "Technoblade never dies." So it's very much so memorial, not just in the iconography, but in the way in which it's presented.
And it's amazing. It really is a beautiful painting.
It really means a lot to me. So yeah. Whereas it's actually it's in his house right now. I had the opportunity to fly over because he was West Coast. After unfortunately he passed before I could finish it, and so I finished it within a few months. And Pixel said, "Hey, do you want to give this to the family while we present the Book of Remembrances?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, I would be honored. It would mean so much to me for the family to have it, because like honestly, if it sat in my house, I genuinely don't know what I would do. I think I would wake up every morning and I don't know, probably cry. It was a lot." And so we flew over. I say we because my partner came with me. It was really difficult to transport the painting. It was like in this giant wooden box that I had to build.
Careful on everything. Like
I had to. I basically constructed this large wooden box that weighed about 70 pounds, which also made it expensive to take through the airport. But I also locked it, and I also had to pack it in a way that I could make sure that the painting wasn't hurt, because it was a canvas, so you could like theoretically punch through it. Which I've now tried to switch to using wood panels for paintings just for that reason. And it was really beautiful. I got to meet a bunch of people, including Technoblade's family. His dad and I are actually pretty close now, and his dad is awesome. And also his wife is really awesome.
She's very
and
talented at
her and
singing
I,
as well.
yes, she's very talented at singing, and she's very talented at people. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it does.
But it makes sense in my head.
Yeah, she's good at working with people. Yeah.
She does a lot of work specifically in like leadership and like how we talk about people, how we talk to people. She's definitely like, she has done a lot of inspiring things to me. I don't know. She's the way people, okay, my friend Pixie always jokes that she, yaps a little bit, but I feel like I could listen to her talk for hours. I don't know. It's just because also, first of all, there's nothing I love more than a really intelligent woman. Like, sorry, totally. And I don't mean that in like a weird way at all. I really just mean that in like, I have such a deep appreciation for women in general. And so to see one who's so successful and so well-spoken just means a lot to me. And also she clearly, like, her and Techno Dad have a really, really healthy and loving relationship too that I really admire. So they're just great people, and I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet them unless it wasn't for Hypixel. So shout out to them. And I'm glad that they have the painting. I really am. It felt right, That just felt like the right place for it to be, and I'm glad that it's there. Although I do occasionally miss looking at it with my own two eyes, because I feel like photos don't do it justice entirely.
Yeah. And photos don't really do anything justice. I have this t-shirt I absolutely love. It's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle t-shirt, and I wear it everywhere. Photos don't do that justice. I feel like it looks amazing in person. It's kind of funny actually that you mentioned Pixie there, because I mean that's how we got connected, right? I remember sending you a friend request and you accepting it, and I invited you to something. Sadly, never got a response. I was like, damn. Yeah, then I was gonna like invite you to that and then invite you to the podcast, and then Pixie reached out to me. I was like, oh yeah, like Snifferish would be interested in like coming on the podcast. So Pixie joins my stream, right? And I do this like thing sometimes where I overthink in the moment, and although I knew they were fine, they joined my stream and they go, oh, can you check DMs when you get a chance? So I checked DMs, I was like, and I very loudly I was like, I've been trying to DM them, I've DM'd them already, I didn't respond. I said, what do you mean? Of course, yes. And I realized it came off like more aggressive than it did in like a jokey manner. I was like, crap. So I DM'd Pixie anyways, and they were fine. They said like, I know it was a joke, and then you're here now. So did you listen to the Techno Dad and Pixie podcast by any chance, or no?
I did not, I'll be honest. Probably because I know everything about them already, TBH. True. But I will say, and this is in my defense, is to not responding to your message. I have this really horrible ADHD trait where I see messages and in my head I formulate a response. I go, okay, wait, do this and do that. Yeah, okay, this is what I should say to that. And then I go, okay, great. And then I forget to say something. So that is my bad. I also do tend to get a lot of messages, not to sound like I'm really popular or whatever, but yeah, that's why. I mean, obviously, if I accepted your friend request, I wanted to talk to you. I'm just really bad at responding.
I've had it like I mean, it's part of the whole job and part of the parcel, so I was only messing when I said about the whole, like, it wasn't me trying to call you out. You're here now. I know. There's so many people who've accepted my friend request, and I DM them, I'm just like, oh, okay. Because I just don't get a response, and I like follow up like 2 weeks later, I'm like, it's like, oh, I've tried twice now, like I'm not pushing for a third time. Like because a lot of these people are very, very busy, and I respect that so much. It's just funny when I'm like, oh, like, I was like, I got the phone call, so I'm like, yes, podcast invite, let's go. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, podcast invite, let's go. And it's like 2 months later, they probably typed out a message. Surely they just forgot to send a message, right? No,
I've been trying to. I'm not gonna lie, I have a very hard time collaborating with other people, like making videos with other people. It's not because it's not anything superficial. Like, I don't have this idea that I'm like better than anyone or anything like that. It's just I'm very introverted. Like,
I think it's
probably
just like, sorry, yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say, like, I'm more introverted than other content creators, which might be hard to believe because I sound like I'm talking so confidently right now and blah 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 and whatever. But I genuinely, like, after this, I'm probably gonna have to like sit in silence for like 5 hours, like, and so I just have a hard time collaborating with other people. But I've been trying to do it more. I actually have a few collaborations that I'm really looking forward to. Recently, I've been talking with a lot of members from like the create side of YouTube, which has been really awesome. It's cool. Really nice to connect with other Minecraft YouTubers and, to discuss like forms of collaboration with people who aren't in my niche. I'm also like looking to do some like build collabs, which I don't really do that often. I actually don't think I've ever done a build collab, so like that would be be really interesting. You know, I'm trying more. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone because I think it's important too.
I talked about Lincoln. Okay, I need to stop referring to other people. I think it was one of like the Ryan.
No. Listen. You should not feel guilty about making connections. It's like the most natural thing your brain can do.
I always say this to people, and I really should add it to like the rundown. Is like I'm gonna add it to the rundown probably after this, just so I can at least clarify. Is like my way of showing that, like, because I've had it before. Like I remember in person one time when I first made a friend with someone. Every single time they told me something, I just, like told them a way I related. And I remember at one point I was like, "Why do you always do that? Why do I always do that?" And I was like, "Because like that's just like, because I'm not trying to make it about me. I'm still talking about you. It's just my way of showing that I relate and understand."
Listen, that is a very typical like neurodivergent thing to do. Also, I feel like that really comes into this idea of like individualist culture, which I actually severely despise. Like this idea that like immediately sharing your opinion or immediately sharing your experiences is somehow making it about you. I almost always have seen it as people trying to relate to me or people trying to explain. Like you're just explaining why you understand what I'm saying. And I feel like that's completely natural. I don't know why that's become such a thing culturally, where like being like, yes, I have gone through this too. Here's what I went through. This is why I understand you, has become so negative. But I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's like when you sit here and you say, oh, this reminds me of this thing I talked about with other streamer, it actually makes me feel less alone, you know, in my thoughts, which I think is probably a good thing.
And to be fair, with like everyone I've brought on, no one's ever had a problem with it. I just know, like, I mean, it's just linking back to, because I don't really, nowadays, it's really funny, I don't really have any in real life friends. Like, I know it sounds bad, but I kind of just, I do stuff and I go out, but I'm just always with my partner. We're always going out together. Whenever I go out and do stuff, it's with her. And it's like, I don't really need to, I have one friend who I messaged like the other week for the first time in like 6 months. He's the first person outside of the internet who I've talked to. And then people like AJ, who is the co-host of Midweek MC, we're messaging almost daily. And it's like, and I've met him in person once and we plan to meet up more, but I don't know, I guess just I've always never really been able to bond with people in real life because I have such different interests to them. I mean, you know, like, I don't use Snapchat, I have it, but like, so if it's when I'm bored, I'll just go on it to see if anything's happening. And like a bunch of like people from my secondary school, they're all doing stuff that isn't very good and they're all like Snapchatting and like posting about it, and it's like, that just isn't the road I went down. So I think that's why I've always kind of found it hard to make friends, and because none of them really have the same interests as me, whereas like the podcast, I'm talking to 2 different creators every single week who all share the same interests of me, as they're online and they want to make this a full-time career.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that. You know, I grew up with a few like social issues, you know, and so I definitely felt that way too. And I think to some degree I still do today. I talk about this a lot in the sense of like how much I grieve the death of third spaces, especially in America. Because like, I think that, you know, I'm constantly asking this question sort of rhetorically. How do you make friends as an adult? Like, you know, like how do you, like, I didn't go to college. I can't have college friends. I didn't like, where do you meet people? I can't just like walk up to someone in a coffee shop and say, hey, like what you're wearing, let's be friends. Like that's not like socially thing anymore, you know? So I totally get where you're coming from, but also that's why I love the internet, in the sense of like, I have met so many wonderful people. I mean, I met my partner through the internet, which I used to think was cringe. And now I'm just like, nope, that's completely normal considering I have very niche interests. And it's not a bad thing that I found someone who also had very niche interests, like, you know.
But yeah, sorry, what I was going to say as well is because we kind of moved on from it with the Rye Guy podcast.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's my fault because I went down the thing and you went down the comforting me route. So I'm very thankful for that. What I was going to say is, I think it was with him or I was with someone, like, so it's undiagnosed, but I'm based on just past experiences. I'm pretty certain I have anxiety. I don't, I mean, based on experiences now as well. I had something happen like 2 weeks ago, and it's the first time I've kind of had the little anxiety panic attack, getting my sleep schedule more than 5 hours sleep, because I just couldn't, like a good like 3 or 4 days, because something minimal happened. And as I remember saying it, like, I don't let stuff affect me because I really push it to the back, but this one thing kind of brought it all out. And I won't get into it too much. It's just something that happened with an IRL mate. But we were talking about it, and I said I think a lot of creators in the scene as well, just being in Minecraft, is that like, or with like the way I do it is embracing anxiety, but rather than like trying to beat it, I hide it. And that's my way of dealing with it. Rather than being like, oh yeah, I want to beat this, I want to be better than the anxiety, I kind of just slap it to the back of my mind, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna let that affect me. So I think it's just, I can't really remember what point I was trying to refer to here, but there's something that you said that
it's
links
okay.
into. So something you said that I'm linking into with that. I just don't know what it is that you said because I can't remember.
There's something there. You're making a connection somewhere. Yeah, no, I completely get that. I don't talk about it often. I mean, I've talked about like a little bit of my stuff online. I don't know why I don't like talk about it online that much. I guess it's because I still, and this is where I again, I admit I'm not perfect. I still definitely think I'm a little bit stigmatized around mental illness and like stuff where I get really worried, sharing it with other people, even though I'm like, this should be normalized. It should be normal to talk about these things. But I do have a generalized anxiety disorder, and I've been diagnosed since I was 8. So I definitely I see a lot of those things in you too. So I totally understand where you're coming from. It's so interesting too how like I don't even think I know where I was going with this. So I don't know. I feel like it's important to talk about that stuff, even if it's just bringing it up super casually. I feel like obviously there's a time and place for everything, but I think the more like we were talking about this earlier about how like when you hear someone share an experience, you suddenly feel a little bit more comfortable to share a very similar experience that you've had, which is why I think it's so important to talk about these things. Because I mean, if you hadn't talked about your anxiety just now, I probably would have never mentioned that I have it too.
Exactly. So there you go. It's about making people feel comfortable, like you mentioned there, as the whole making. And I once again, that's why I love the podcast, because I talk to so many different creators, and I think people love listening because they realize, there's this joke of like, none of us have an original experience. Like whenever you see something happen, and you're like, none of us have done anything original in our lives. But it also comes down to the fact of like, you just like, for instance, something that I've really to emphasize on the podcast, because it's quite embarrassing for me, or not really not fully embarrassing per se, but just something that like I'm not always comfortable saying, is for secondary school, at least secondary school was when I was like 13 or 14. I got really like, I used to be sick with foam every single morning, and I'd like to emphasize this on the podcast every now and then, depending on who I'm talking to, and I know I can be comfortable saying it to you, rather than like if I'm interviewing someone, I'm like, oh, so you make Minecraft content? I used to be sick every morning. But the route our conversation is going, I feel like I can say it, and it's like, I feel like a lot of people are scared to think that like, oh crap, this isn't normal, and it probably isn't entirely normal. Like me being sick every single morning wasn't a good thing. Like it can really make you unwell, and it did for a while. So please, if you can, try and avoid that. Don't just because I'm saying it think, oh, it's fine. Like I did have some bad health deficits for a while, but it's also like just happened because of the anxiety. Like I was nervous to go to school, I was nervous to see people, so I used to get sick. And even before work, I remember like when I started my first job, I used to like cough. So what I do now, and I think somebody actually came to me and was like, oh my god, since you recommended that, it's helped so much. I chew on Mentos. Whenever I feel like a clog in my throat or feel a bit of nerves, I chew on Mentos, and for some absolutely bizarre reason, help. And I've helped by telling people that they've also tried it and it's helped.
Do you know why that helps? Because I think I do.
No, I haven't. I mean, I guess it's maybe distracting myself by chewing on something.
Well,
but I don't know.
It's also, so this is why actually a lot of people who experience depression tend to eat a lot. Our brain is kind of like wired a little bit in the sense of we are under the assumption that when we are eating, we are safe, because obviously that's what you're supposed to do. So doing something like chewing gum or eating a Mentat or whatever the fuck it's called, not Mentat, that's Fallout. Eating a Mento, like it's in a way you're basically telling your central. That's a way of you communicating with your central nervous system that, hey, I am safe right now because I feel comfortable to eat or to consume something. Obviously, you're not actually eating; you're kind of chewing something. But obviously, we didn't have the nuance of that back when we were, I don't know, monkey. I don't know, caveman or whatever the hell you want to think. I don't know. But it's a very interesting thing that I learned. And it definitely has helped me a lot too, because I do that. I chew on things, or I'll eat like I find like foods that require a lot of I don't know how to explain it. I've always kind of thought of it as like foods that have some sort of like involvement in them. Like for example, if you're gonna eat a pistachio, you have to crack the nut, or if you're gonna eat a pomegranate, you have to spit out the seeds or something like that. Like a food that has a little bit more of an eating process, a very specific eating process. Whenever I'm super anxious, I actually normally tend consume like those types of foods because I find that they help a lot.
I have actually never thought of it like that. I didn't know that was a fact, so I'm kind of glad. Again, see, bringing it up to you, and you've explained to me why that happens. I just thought because mento, mint, like something about like.
Well, mint also does have normally calming properties, so it is overall, and also mint, especially peppermint, tends to help with nausea. So that's also another thing. Like all around, I think it's interesting. Your body just kind of naturally chose one of the best things you could probably do for that situation.
I just tricked my brain into thinking it was a good cure. It's like is it called? No, it's not called placebo, is it? I feel like I'm using the wrong word in there.
That is.
Where like
placebo
if
is the right
you
word.
give someone like a drink and you go, oh, this has really high alcohol. If they have like 3 or 4 drinks of it, and it's just
they might think that
really drunk, but they're not actually drunk. They've just tricked their mind. I thought I just found a way to trick my mind into thinking I'm good.
There's definitely some things behind it. I definitely think that the placebo, I think to some degree, that's the thing is placebo has a word for it, not because it's like the effect that you're feeling is fake, but because it's generated by your mind, basically. So it's not, which doesn't necessarily make it a null effect, So I do think to some degree, like the mentality that you then hold of like, this is going to help me, does help you. But I also do think that there are some, more neurological reasonings behind why it might calm you down so much.
I mean, it works for me, and that's all that matters.
I know.
So
honestly, I recommend it for anyone else who has anxiety. That seems like a really good idea. Chewing gum or Mentos or whatever. I pretty much did the same thing, just with Tic Tacs.
I remember like when like for instance when people are trying to quit smoking, they like a lot of people do different effects. But when my dad did it, he like had this really like minty strong gum. Whenever he got the urge to smoke, he had this gum that tasted horrible, and then in the end, he like his mind. I think this is the way it happened. And in the end, his mind just related to the idea of wanting to smoke to this really horrible, really minty taste. And he hasn't smoked in like 20 years, give or take. No, less than that. Like I'm 21, so about 15 years maybe, something like that.
Oh, good for him. That's awesome.
Yeah, but we still
you can also like people. You can also like create associations in your mind very easily. That's what like it's funny because like things like trauma and addiction are so heavily connected that we don't normally think about that. And those are two very negative things typically, but I also just mean like any form of positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement are both two sides of the same coin. In the sense of they're mostly attached to our dopamine cycle, which is what it is. It's your dopamine cycle, and so we can train ourselves in many different ways. And so like I think a really good example of this is like aromatherapy. The idea that scents can bring certain thoughts and feelings. I think to some degree, like there probably is something actually neurological behind that, but I think a lot of it is like this idea of our brain has made these connections, whether it's like in reality or just a cultural thing, like associating lavender with calmness, right? Like that's something we've
fixing my stomachache.
yes. It's like it's all like it probably has like some true thing behind it of why it makes you feel like that. But I feel like what's more important than anything is that we have culturally decided that this is what it is, and therefore our brains have made the connection to the point where when we smell it, we immediately think of something else, or we immediately associate it with something else. We make these beautiful connections, and I feel like that is awesome. I mean, that's why I love that you keep bringing up other interviews. I love that you keep bringing up other streamers, because I love the idea. Like, I want people to make connections. I want people to, like that. It's thinking. Like, how can you not want people to think? Like,
exactly. With that, then I feel like we've covered pretty much. I know we haven't talked majorly about you today, but I feel like we've covered pretty much everything regarding you. And is there something you thought I was going to bring up that we didn't, or have we done a pretty good job? Oh, you know what? Actually, no, there is actually something.
Yeah, one more question. Okay.
I got one more in me. Did you have anything or no?
No. Go ahead. I'm listening.
I got one more in me.
Okay.
Why the name Snifferish?
Oh, so I came up with that.
Asked that 2 hours ago.
That's totally okay. That's totally okay. I made it up when I was a kid. It is literally the babbling of a child. Like, I am so serious. It's not that deep. It has I have nothing. There's nothing about me that connected to sniffing people or anything like that. It literally was. I was a child and I made up some gibberish and I said, okay, there we go. Because it was back in an era where like usernames like, you know, nowadays with most like gaming platforms and whatever, you create a username and then there's a tag at the end, and therefore everyone can have, we have two people named Egg or whatever. But back then it was like, you know, it's like Minecraft where there's only one username, that like only one Snifferish can exist in Minecraft. There's no Snifferish #1234 or whatever. So my parents were very much so like, create something unique, and I was like, okay, and then I literally just made up literal gibberish.
And then they actually named a mob after you.
A little bit,
They
yeah.
loved your name so much, they was like, you know what? We're gonna name this mob Sniffer. And
you know, I have a really funny story about that, actually.
Oh, go on then.
I'm friends with a few of the Minecraft developers. At least I like to think that we're friends. So it'd be really awkward if they didn't. And I remember messaging one of them when they released the Sniffer. I was like, holy cow. Like I love this thing so much. It's so, yeah. And I was like, I don't remember. Wait, here. Let me read it word for word. Let me get some quotations in here, okay? I mentioned, I send the developer a picture of the Sniffer, and I go, who made these? I said, it's called the Sniffer. Who is trying to make me canon in Minecraft? And I said, I know it's not at all a reference to me, but I want y'all emojing to know I love y'all so much. This is great. And then the developer responded with, you and all others can never prove that it isn't a reference to you.
It might be.
It might be. I mean, to quote them, you can't prove it isn't. So
Exactly. So it's actually about you. That's crazy. You're canon in Minecraft. No way.
I mean, you know, I don't want to like brag at all or anything like that. I do genuinely think that I know that Mojang Studios like knows who I am, and you know, which feels insane because I feel like I'm such a small content creator in comparison to the people they usually take notice to. But I think it's especially that transition of working for the Minecraft marketplace and then transitioning into being a Minecraft content creator. I'm really honored to know that they like acknowledge who I am and they acknowledge my content and have sponsored me twice now. So I'm very thankful for the Mojang team, both their PR team and their development team. So yeah,
I'm in a pretty cool Discord regarding Minecraft. I can't really say too much. Nothing's ever actually really come of it just yet. Hopefully one day it will. But I got invited to it. It's pretty sick through the podcast because I got recommended. So I'm grateful for that as well. You're also going to be voice acting the Sniffer in the Minecraft Netflix movie, aren't you?
Yeah, obviously.
So,
I wish I could make some sniffing noises. I actually genuinely wish, like I don't know, like if I could genuinely voice act for sorry, I'm gonna move my mic. If I could genuinely voice act in that, I totally would. I love voice acting so much. It's not something I really get to do that often. My partner is a professional voice actor at this point. They did some stuff with Minecraft too. You know, it's something I've always dreamed of. So I don't know if they would, I would. Like if they were like, yeah, you can come do this. I'd hop on a plane. I'd hop on a plane. I'd go anywhere I needed to get that done.
Well, we might see Snifferish in a Minecraft movie. Who knows?
I hope so. Not in the Minecraft movie. I'd rather be in an animated thing.
In both, you can be in both. Easy.
Yeah, even though I'm pretty sure they wrapped up filming, but yeah.
It doesn't matter. Right, with that being said then, it's time for the Twitter questions. We don't have loads, we have a few, which is more than enough. The first one comes from Galak Sushi. What are some tips for aspiring builders?
I used to have a series where I threw and gave tips and stuff like that. But my biggest tip has always been to reference real life builds or art. Like try and avoid referencing other people's builds because then you're just going to basically like adapt their style, which is nothing. I do think to some degree that's important and that's a important thing to do. But like Minecraft is all about shapes, you know? So just look at real shapes and think about how to create that shape in Minecraft as opposed to, I mean, following tutorials is fine, but like if you genuinely want to get really good at building, the best thing you can do is reference things that aren't in Minecraft and try to translate them. Learning how to translate things into the game is really what building is.
Oh, that's a nice answer. I like that. The next one comes from yeah, I might as well ask it from Happy Alt _ so Happy Manstar Man United for Life 1. Good team support. How did you get into MCC? I haven't had my MCC taught this podcast. I tried to avoid it, but yeah, it always comes back. So go on. How did you get into it?
Like, okay, so basically, I really wanted to be an MCC, so I traveled to the depths of hell and I sold my soul to the devil. Scott asked me. Sorry, I'm literally kidding. Literally, I asked.
And they said yes.
That's it.
W.
W.
Don't try that. We don't want to annoy Scott's Major. It doesn't.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't
I will
work.
say.
It might
I
have
will
worked
say.
at that point. Doesn't anymore.
I think that like I was on a wait list for like 9 months. So
there you go.
It certainly wasn't like I asked and I was immediately put in. It was like I was on a wait list for a while. And then also on top of that, like it really does come down to balancing. You know, they typically add players when they can't balance an event correctly. So like for example, you know, they need the really good players and the kind of bad players like me. So they like I was mostly added to the event because I think they needed to put me, a bad player, on a team with some really good people to balance it, which is funny, but also like I don't mind because you know it is what it is.
That's why being bad can be actually really beneficial, and I'm glad I'm
sometimes being crap at the game does work out in your favor.
You get to team with more cool people because you get to team with the bad people and you get to team with the good people. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, like poor Purple, he's probably so annoyed with me how much I get put on his team because I'm supposed to balance him out.
And then and then the final
one go ahead.
Comes from blah, blah, blah. Aaron is Pico. Can you sue Minecraft over the name Sniffer? If yes, just saying I'm a pretty good Minecraft lawyer.
I don't think that I can. I don't think so. It's not like I have it copyrighted or anything, and I also just don't want to. But like, I don't know if you've actually ever been in court, but it's kind of boring. I won't lie.
Fair enough. And there you go. That's it for today's podcast, Snifferish. Thank you so much for coming on. You've been an amazing guest.
Thank you.
Before I do the outro here, I want to give this opportunity for you to promote yourself. If people want to go see your amazing art or your amazing builds or anything like that, where can people go to find you?
Well, believe it or not, because Snifferish is such an uncommon word, because I made it up, all my socials are at Snifferish.
Which is in the title,
literally everything
is in the title.
Yeah. It's not Snifferfish, contrary to popular belief. That's literally it. It's literally at Snifferish on pretty much everything, except for I don't know, really niche stuff. YouTube. Definitely, I feel like I the place I would direct people. I'm most active on YouTube and TikTok, so I feel like those are the best places to follow me.
And there you go. With that being said, thank you again. You've been amazing, and this has been an amazing talk. I appreciate you giving me your time. And thank you all for the listeners. Stay safe. Don't eat too much bread. Pieces.